there, everybody. This is Corwin, and we are going to do a one-take wonder on this video. That's right, recording live from my living room at my desk. And I'm not going to edit anything on this, so we're just going for it. Thanks for stopping in. I hope that you've had a good day so far, and if you haven't, I hope that it gets a little bit better starting now. This is a project that I have put a lot of time into on Twitch, live streaming and working and getting to chat with you all. It really means so much. It makes me feel pretty special that people want to be part of my creative and learning process with me. Sometimes creating can be a solitary activity just because of how long it takes, and it might even be a burden to ask somebody to spend time with you while you're doing that. You know, it's kind of boring. But this was the total opposite of that. Everybody was great and hung out with me and gave me ideas and suggestions. A lot of this project started from being inspired by the game Loop Hero. If you haven't played it, Loop Hero is a semi-automated loop. Huge surprise there. And your character runs around the track, and you don't directly control them, but you do equip them with items, and the enemies attack you, and you are making decisions on how to populate the game board. And if you put on too many things, it'll, destroy your character. And if you don't put enough things there, they don't get strong enough when the bosses come. So it's sort of a balancing act. And that's sort of a lesson that I took away from working on these item icons was it's a balancing act. Figuring out how far to push things, or when you're pushing it too far and it kind of loses the charm. And these icons were just very heavily inspired by that Loop Hero look, that just very lo-fi, limited palette. That game is pretty wild, though, because I think there's only 16 colors that they use, and I use 42 in this. I use the Rosy 42 palette, which is just one of the basic palettes that comes with a sprite, and I had a lot of fun working with it. I generally really enjoy sunset colors, so it was very natural for me to just get started with those types of colors. Here you can see I've started working on the apple, the sword, the skeleton hand, the grab bag of items, sort of like a bee shield thing, and the glove was roughed in, and now I'm working on the candelabra, which was hilarious because I didn't know what a candelabra was until chat taught me. And at this point, I was taking in suggestions for items to draw in this pixel art style, in this particular palette, in this particular size. So if you see text pop in, like key and chest, that's just literally people saying, hey, can you draw this? And I'd say, I will attempt to with the very best of my ability, but I cannot promise how good or bad it will be. And working on these, I think, another big part of my learning process with this, because I'm very new to this. Like, I've illustrated for years, but I am very new to pixel art. And one of those new aspects of pixel art is how to work in such a limited size. Because if you're making a huge 18 by 24 illustration, if you want to add texture to, say, a key or folds in a cloth bag, it's pretty easy to just go in and, add reflectivity and add stripes of texture into the bag. But in pixel art, when you put that square down, it can say a lot, especially at this resolution. I think I'm working at, it's either 25 by 25 or 26 by 26, but let me know in the comments below if I have absolutely messed that up. I almost swore. Got to watch out for Papa YouTube. This key was pretty hard to work on. I went back and forth on it a lot. Getting something to be tilted in pixel space is definitely a challenge. Things that are symmetrical seem to work much easier, or things that are just flat on. The shield, the treasure chest, the sword, just things that are straight ahead, basically the same on both sides. That stuff came really naturally to me, and more of the learning process came when I had to figure out how to tip things, or how to make a pinky look slightly smaller than a pointer finger on this glove, where the knuckles go. Or should there be 4 knuckles? Should there be 3 knuckles? I don't know. Oh, goodness. But we got there in the end, and it is very rewarding to work with pixel art because you can get so much mileage out of so few squares. It's sort of the blessing and the curse of working in this style, is if something doesn't look right, you lasso tool it, you move it, you draw. You go for it. It's just lightning fast. This whole icon set in this video, when I loaded all of the stream footage into Premiere, it was essentially 24 hours of art. And I've cut that down to 20 minutes for you here, because watching 20 hours of pixel art is a huge undertaking for anybody, even for me. So we're going to condense it down. We're going to get it set and get it so where you can, make a cup of tea, enjoy your night, and hang out and watch a goofy guy do some pixel art, and he has no idea what he's doing. But the funny part is when you do something and you're having fun with it, even if you don't know exactly how all the pieces work, you'll still garner an audience just because they maybe think that you think you know what you're doing. And I know that I don't know what I'm doing. And that's the fun of it. I'd definitely encourage you to try pixel art if you haven't. There are definitely a lot of free programs floating out there, but I gravitated towards a Sprite because the price was right for me, and also a lot of the keyboard shortcuts are very similar to Photoshop, and I could work Photoshop in my sleep. So it was just a very natural transition over. I didn't have to learn a new program, learn everything from the ground up, learn it from scratch. I was just able to, let's change this keyboard shortcut to this. Oh, here's where my layers are. Oh, you can add frames this way. Okay, great. And this project also started out as just a static icon set. And as I was going forward, I just was having so much fun doing them, and the audience was responding so much to it that I decided to animate them, which I didn't include in the video only because when the animation work was fast forwarded, it looks incredibly hectic, and I didn't really think it was that enjoyable to watch. But I will show you guys a preview of the finished product at the end. You can see them actually moving, but it'll just be missing a bit of the process to get there along the way. Here's one of my favorite items on this set here is these metal boots, which my brother recommended I do. And I was just figuring out how to make the folds of the armor work, but still read as a boot. And one of the ways I was able to achieve that was to have the highlight lines move forward and backwards in space. And that sort of is indicating to your eye, hey, this piece is further forward because it's more left. This piece is further back because it's more right. So it's using some of my Illustrator tricks to convert them into pixel ideas of just, how can I use warm and cool lighting when I only have 42 colors? Or how can I make something look metal and something look cloth when I only have 42 colors? And a lot of that is achieved through using value correctly. Metallic things, gold candles are going to have very high levels of value contrast, meaning very dark colors and very light colors close together. It's going to read more as reflective or metallic. And then you'll see the other objects I worked on, like say the front of the treasure chest, is going to be lower contrast because wood doesn't have really, really dark darks and really, really bright brights. Everything's kind of closer together. So a lot of that mindfulness is just being brought into this digital space, into this pixel world, if you will. And I am pushing things back and forth so much as I'm working. Hopefully you're seeing I'm not landing on these ideas right away. I'm really trying a lot of things. Like here you can see me highlighting the edge of the glass to make it look more interesting. You can see me adding a dark highlight around it. You can see I'm trying to put specks of color in the mana potion and figuring out what things are working and what aren't. And also I'm using 2 different size windows to work on these. This is something I've learned from other experienced pixel artists on Twitch or on Twitter. Is I always notice their workspace, they have that preview window, and it's really important because you need to be able to see it at size, meaning quite small, especially if these are little game icons. It is easy to get lost in your 22-inch diagonal screen and gaze upon all of the bright saturated colors in perfect clarity, huge. But ultimately, that's not how people are going to be viewing these things. They're most likely going to be looking at them on a small cell phone, on a social media post, seeing it on a, small menu window in a game on their computer. There's more places like that you would see it. So I found it very, very helpful to have the small preview window up and to have the larger main working area to the side so that I could really get in the nitty-gritty of figuring out what pixel's going to go where on the highlights of this lamp, so it's just easier to manipulate. I've watched some streamers use a mouse for art. In fact, even a few of the Loop Hero pixel artist, Dimitri Deceiver, I watched a few of his streams and I could hear him clicking his mouse. And I said, do you use a mouse and not a stylus? And yep, mouse is the way to go for me. I've never been quite comfortable using a mouse. I don't know, maybe I just haven't played enough first-person shooters. I have no idea. But I am using a Wacom Cintiq tablet and the regular stylus because I just find I have a lot more control with it. Even though it's pretty binary when you're working on pixel art. You're either placing a square or you're not placing a square. It's not quite like drawing with a pencil or a marker in Photoshop. I still found it helpful just to have that control with the pen. Also, gosh, I have to talk about this pile of gold. Getting these to not look like a pile of purple mashed potatoes was quite a challenge. And here I actually just kind of stopped on it for a while because I was getting frustrated. And that is another tool in my toolbox, is coming back to something if it's just not working at the moment. I understand with professional work and commission work, we don't have that luxury as artists. Sometimes things need to get done and it has to be done today. And there's times to push through that, but I always think I take a little bit of psychic damage when I do that. So I try to minimize that as much as I can. And the purple mashed potatoes pile there was definitely one of those things. I have the luxury of this being a personal project. I was able to pull back from it, pull aside, do something else for a little bit, and then I made that kick-ass harp. So it's good to take breaks. And you will also see me not give up on that pile of mashed potato gold. I will come back to it after every piece is done. I go back and I refine it, and I worked on it when I was in a better headspace too, which I think was even like a week or two later. I am such a big proponent of just stepping back from something that's not working and working on something else instead. If you have the tendency to start projects and not finish them, then maybe your practice is going to be the other direction, which is how do I work on something when I'm not feeling it? And it's truly going to be up to you to figure out which direction of practice you need. Practice letting go and coming back to, or pushing yourself ahead when something isn't working. One of the things that did work, however, was this little witch's cauldron here, complete with a wooden mixing spoon. Definitely channeling the best Zelda Link's Awakening vibes that I can here from the witch's hut, getting the glowy, smoky background. And I think it's pretty apparent at this point in the process how quickly I'm roughing in and finishing things. The earlier ones, I was really unsure how to use this color palette and what colors worked well for backgrounds and what colors worked well for foreground things. And now it's like the genie lamp, the witch's cauldron, the rabbit foot, this little dragon, they come in pretty quickly and it works very, very smoothly. I felt a lot more confident at this part, and it only took me, like 15 hours of working to really start to feel like I had a handle on it, just doing the same thing over and over and over again. Here, I was moving his eye around a lot on this little baby dragon here to try to figure out like where was the best spot for it or what implied the eye the best. And that's a lot of pixel art I've noticed is implying things, implying that the fire is bright or implying it has an eye. It's not quite like illustration or graphic design where you are specifically making and creating and showing things. It's like you're sort of doing 3/4 of the work and you're letting the viewer's brain do the other remaining quarter of interpreting those shapes into actual objects and actual things. Here we had to do the classic Pokeball, and I think we did the Ultra Ball was the one. And I wasn't sure whether or not to tip it upwards or downwards. And there you can see me pulling up references from the back of the Pokemon trading cards, because famously the lid on the Pokeball is on the wrong side for the trading cards, but it's too late. They can't change it. They've invested too deeply. So, they're stuck. It's stuck that way now. They can't do anything. But here in Pixel Art Land, we can change things all we want, and I haven't been really bound to much. It's actually just incredibly smooth to go in and erase things and start again, adding a little glow around the ball, making it more exciting. And this seemed to be a lot of people's favorites. This loaf of bread, I've had a lot of people commenting bread. So, if you're a fan of bread and you're here for the bread, thank you so much. I really appreciate you for being here, my carbohydrate warriors out there. Make sure to snap a slice off of this when you are having your next boss battle. Things can get really scary out there, and you need to stay carbed up and ready to go. If you have been thinking about doing pixel art, I hope this video is the push you need to try something new and get your style out there. And especially if you are not experienced with it at all, it can be really, really fun to get into. Something I will be trying on stream at some point is doing 1-bit drawings. I've been really into the little Digimon handheld toys that fit in your pocket, because they have these amazing 16x16 characters in a 1-bit style. And I think that might be my next challenge to go ahead and do. So if you ever want to catch me doing art or games on live stream, make sure to come to a Compass Cult stream and check us out. Everybody there is really nice. And a lot of people work on art also while they watch stream. And I hope that you can come there and be inspired too, just like you guys inspire me. It's just a big circle of artistic energy. Very Spirit Bomb-esque. I'm going to let the rest of this play out. I've run out of things to say, but here you're going to see me going back and refining a few of the old icons and logos, and then you will see the finished animation here. Thanks for watching. Have a great rest of your night.